long time.
I was looking for a job. I see you.
Yeah, come on in. Yeah, it's been a long time. What do you do?
Real good. Traveling the world.
Are you? Good, good, good. You know, I haven't seen you since what, 1970s?
Yeah.
When we both worked at Fernandes at Norton Supermarket.
Yeah.
And that was the good old days.
Good old days was right.
Yeah,
It was a great company.
It was a great company. 19. My life story in the baking business comes from my grandfather. My grandfather, back in the 1900s, went to the island next door, sitting here, brought back a little model of a windmill. And him and a few other guys who went throughout the island, they built about 6 or 8 windmills. So he ended up owning one of them. And so, as you're in the windmill, you bring in your wheat to be ground, and you get a commission by a portion of wheat, a small amount. And there, my grandmother started making bread, okay, and selling to the neighborhood. God behold, in 1944, just before the World War II started,
Yeah.
and the island got flooded with a lot of people. And this brought in a lot of demand for the bread and all of this. So he opened the first bakery. My grandfather opened the first bakery in the island. There was a lot of home bakeries. And he opened the first commercial bakery to supply all these people that were coming in to build the airport. And there it started. My grandfather started with that. He started the windmill. He moved in, and I was brought up in the bakery.
When did you immigrate to the United States, and when did you get into the bakery here in America?
I'm sorry that takes so long to explain, but during World War II, if you had a relative in the United States, he could send a letter saying that he would support you if you came over. And my father had a brother in New York. So my father went to Madeira Island, where was the Portuguese consul for the whole Azores, with this process. When he got there, they shut the border. No more immigrants. So he left our names in line. When the border opened up to immigrate, we would come over. In 1957, my mother got a letter, 54 actually, that, you know, my father's turn was coming. My mother immigrated in this place because he had passed on from a hunting accident. And here we came in 1957 to Fox Point, Rhode Island. My uncle set us up in a little flat with everything we needed. And from there, my grandfather's bakery, he passed on, and my mother inherited. So my idea was come to the United States, learn the business, go back and run the family business. Nobody goes back.
Right.
And that's how it started.
Was your first baking job at Fernandes in the United
I
States?
started off with 15 years old, working Steve's Bakery in Taunton. And for 2 weeks, I worked for free to learn how to, before I got paid. Then I learned how to do donuts, and I learned how to bake the Portuguese rolls. And from there, in 1966, that's when I went into the Fernandes supermarkets. Meanwhile, I worked 5 years in the foundry and other things. But I always had that home base.
So you always wanted to start your own business. Now, Paul, how did you start in the bakery? Like, how old were you when you first started the bakery business?
15 years old.
Wow.
I started in a small Jewish bakery, part-time. And I went to high school for baking. And I graduated and ended up working for the supermarkets, Superplanist. And eventually moved to the South Shore. And I ended up working for Fernandes with Arthur. And then we just left Fernandes when it shut down. And I ended up in Jewish Bakers Union. And I ended up working in the small shop, and the guy retired and sold me his place. Ran that for 12 years, till I retired.
Now, your son Scott is here. Scott actually worked at the family business. Explain to us what it's like when you work for family. Because Scott, you've worked for other people, you've worked for the federal government, you've done other jobs. What was it like for you to actually be part of a family business? How is it different than working for someone else? Because you've done both.
So walking in, having absolutely no experience, not understanding a single thing, my father made me learn from the bottom. I didn't walk in the spoiled owner's son. It was scraping pans and doing dishes and learning it from the actual base and the bottom and growing and learning to do it all on my own. At night, I would run the place and he would come in the mornings. So you got to see work 80, 90 hours while everybody else was going home in 40 because we wanted to provide the best product you could. Giving up a lot of your own personal life for the success of a bakery, as I just told you, still here.
Now, in your career, you had to leave your career because of a health issue. Can you explain about why you had to leave the bakery business?
Yeah, so we got allergic to the flour. And they wanted me to wear a big space mask, you know, like a breathing thing. And there was just no way we were going to deal with that. I was only in my 20s, you know, that was a big challenge to say I was going to walk around with a big mask on.
Right.
So my father would let me leave and go as I thought I needed to try another career, but I always came back. But there was no coming back after that.
Now, how hard was that for you to have to like walk away from the family business? Is that something that really, that was your plan, that you were going to run that business like Art for the rest of your life, or was?
I think it was there, but we never really discussed it. I think if I stayed forever, he would have, you know, gladly watched it stay forever, you know. But like I was saying earlier, times change, things have changed, generations. We were a Jewish bakery. That community slightly dropped off doing their things, and we saw a downfall. And my father would be down to 3 bakers, and he would do, you know what I mean?
Right.
He would have to do more and more. So I think I got out in the right time. Looking back, I think it was the right time to get out. How we doing, everybody? I'm here at Art's Bakery. We got my father and his old friend Art, who owns Art's Bakery, together to reminisce about the old days. And I was challenged to make a braided holly. It's been 21 years since I was in my father's bakery, where I spent the beginning of my adult life working in a family bakery. Got to learn ins and outs of owning a family business and see how much time, effort, energy you put into owning a business. So there's the challenge from the old school bakers to see if I remember how to braid. So basically, you just take the outside piece and you just cross it into the middle. You work it down, pinch the ends. There's our
Perfect.
There's our 2 hollies.
Perfect, then.
And we would make thousands of them.
It is very hard to do 6 braid, without messing it up.